The lawyer's voice echoes in the mahogany-lined office. My father's estate, 43 years of careful planning, reduces to a single sentence. To my son Michael, I leave the entirety of my assets. I don't move. My mother sits beside me, her hand finding mine. My brother Michael sits across the desk, his jaw tightening as the lawyer continues reading. There are bequests for charities, a fund for distant cousins, and then the lawyer says my name. My heart stops. And to my daughter Sophie, I leave my personal letters and the contents of the fireproof box kept in her name. Nothing else. No property. No accounts. No explanation. The lawyer looks up from the document, uncomfortable. He's delivered bad news before, but this is different. This is a daughter erased from her father's fortune. Michael's shoulders drop just slightly. Relief. I see it flash across his face before he masks it. The lawyer asks if anyone has questions. No one speaks. My mother's grip on my hand tightens, but I'm already gone somewhere inside myself. As we stand to leave, Michael catches my eye. He almost looks apologetic. Almost. But there's something else there too. A flicker of triumph he can't quite hide. I've just been cut from the will, and my brother is trying not to smile about it. That night, at my parents' house, Michael hosts a small celebration. Just family. Just drinks and toasts. He's different now. Looser. Confident in a way he never was when our father was alive. My father always made Michael nervous. The scrutiny, the expectations, the weight of being the chosen one. But now that the will is read, now that it's official, something shifts in him. He pours himself a drink and looks directly at me. Sophie, he says, his voice warm, fake warm. I know this is hard, but I'm going to take care of you. You'll always have a place in the family home. Always. The condescension is thick enough to choke on. I watch him smile at our mother, at the distant relatives who suddenly find reasons to laugh at his jokes. I see how easily power settles on his shoulders. He inherited more than money today. He inherited authority. He inherited the right to be generous with what was never truly his alone. Inside, something sharp clicks into place. It's not anger, not yet. It's clarity. I realize in that moment that my silence isn't weakness. Silence, I understand now, is a weapon. Silence means he won't see me coming. Silence means he'll keep that smile on his face, that arrogance in his posture, while I figure out what he's actually done. Because something doesn't add up. The will is too clean, too simple. A man who manages 43 years of wealth doesn't just hand it all to one child without reason. My father was meticulous, paranoid about details. He would have left something for me, something real. I keep my face neutral as Michael raises his glass. I lift mine to meet it, and I start paying attention. 2 days after the funeral, my mother pulls me into my father's study. The fireproof box sits on his mahogany desk, small and unremarkable. Black metal with a silver keyhole. My mother places a key in my palm. It's warm, like she's been holding it for hours. Your father made me promise, she says quietly, that no matter what, this gets to you. That you open it when you're ready, but that you open it alone. She doesn't explain further. She doesn't need to. I wait 3 days before I unlock it. I sit in my apartment, door locked, curtains drawn. Inside the box are documents, dozens of them. Letters in my father's precise handwriting. Property deeds, bank statements, and one envelope that's heavier than the others, sealed and dated. The date on that envelope is 6 months after my father died. My hands shake as I open it. The letter is brief. Sophie, if you're reading this, then Michael has been named in the official will. This letter serves as a corrective measure. What follows are the truths about your inheritance, about what I've actually set aside for you, and why the official will reads the way it does. Trust your instincts. Your brother always wanted the appearance of success more than actual responsibility. I've accounted for that. I read it 3 times. My father didn't forget me. He protected me. I start going through the documents in the box, and memories start shifting into focus. The last decade of my father's life, I was constantly at his properties, managing tenants, handling renovations, paying property taxes from accounts he'd set up in my name, though I thought I was just borrowing money I'd pay back, organizing his medical care when he got sick, handling the details while Michael was too busy with his own life. I was just helping, I thought. That's what my family called it. Sophie's just helping Dad with the properties. But looking at the deeds now, looking at the payment trails, I see something different. My name is on more documents than I realized. Not as an owner, not officially, but as an executor, as a manager, as the person who actually made these properties run. One deed catches my eye. The lake house, our family's sanctuary for 3 generations. I remember my father sitting me down 5 years ago, asking me to help him restructure its title. Just a legal thing, he said. Nothing important. I pull out that deed now. My stomach drops. The lake house is held in a trust. A trust that lists me as executor and my father as the primary beneficiary. But there's a clause, handwritten, dated, witnessed, that states, upon my death, executor authority passes to my daughter, Sophie Turner. The property is hers to maintain or distribute as she deems necessary. My father didn't leave me money or properties. He left me power. I spend the next week reviewing every document from the fireproof box. The more I read, the clearer it becomes. My father was protecting something. Not just money, control. The ability to make decisions, to direct assets, to ensure that if anything went wrong I could step in. Michael inherited properties, accounts, investments. On paper he got everything. But the lake house is in a trust one control. 3 commercial properties are held in accounts where I'm listed as a co-executor. Rental income from his inherited properties flows through trusts that require my signature. Subtle. It's layered. And unless someone actually reads the fine print, really reads it with a lawyer, they'd never know. Michael never was one for fine print. I remember him at 17, signing contracts without reading them, inheriting our grandfather's car and not bothering to check the title, always assuming things would work out, always believing the easy narrative. I pull up the property deed for the main family estate, the house where Michael is already living, already acting like he owns completely. There it is, buried in paragraph 7. In the event of dispute regarding rightful ownership, all decisions regarding the property revert to the executor of the trust, named herein as Sophie Turner. My hands are steady as I close the documents. My brother doesn't own what he thinks he owns. I spend days replaying the will reading in my head. I could have interrupted the lawyer. I could have shown him the documents from the fireproof box right then. I could have made a scene, demanded answers, insisted on legal clarification before Michael walked out of that office feeling untouchable. But something stops me. If I had spoken up, Michael would have gone into protection mode immediately. He would have lawyered up. He would have questioned every document, challenged every detail, and turned this into a legal battle right from the start. And yes, I might win eventually, but it would be messy and expensive and exhausting. What I realize, sitting alone in my apartment with my father's letters spread across my desk, is that speaking would have warned him. It would have put him on guard, made him careful, made him watch for threats. Silence means he thinks he's won. Silence means he'll keep moving forward with confidence, making decisions without fear, never suspecting that I already know exactly what he's done and exactly what he hasn't done. Silence gives me time. My father understood this. That's why he left me the letters. That's why he set up these trusts and these documents. He wasn't handing me a legal weapon. He was handing me information. And information only works if the other person doesn't know you have it. I decide that night not to confront Michael. Not yet. 3 weeks after inheriting the estate, Michael hosts a dinner party. He invites the whole family, aunts, uncles, cousins, distant relatives who are suddenly interested in being close to him now that he has money. He plays the generous air, pouring expensive wine, talking about his plans for the family business, mentioning that he might expand into real estate development. I watch him carefully. He's comfortable, loose. He mentions, almost casually, that he's been thinking about selling the lake house. He says it while looking directly at me, gauging my reaction. There's a challenge in it, a test to see if I'll object. It's such a money pit, he says, laughing. I'm thinking of liquidating it and moving the capital into something more profitable. My mother flinches slightly, but she doesn't say anything. I smile and take a sip of wine. That sounds like a good plan, I say. Thoughtful long-term thinking. Michael relaxes. He's interpreted my calmness as acceptance, maybe even as weakness. He leans back in his chair, satisfied. What he doesn't know is that the lake house can't be sold without my approval. What he doesn't know is that my father anticipated this exact moment, this exact temptation. As Michael continues planning his future, I'm already planning mine. That night, I pull out the original handwritten letter from my father. I've read it 100 times, but I'm looking for something specific now. A detail I might have missed. And there it is, in the second paragraph. The lake house is not mine to give freely. It belongs to the family, to the memory of what we built there together. Should Michael attempt to liquidate it without consultation with you, the property automatically transfers to a trust for preservation purposes. You become the sole trustee and decision-maker. The letter references a specific clause in the deed. I pull up that deed and find it. Paragraph 9, subsection C, dated and witnessed by two people I don't know. My father must have added this years ago, anticipating a moment that might never come. But we're here now. The clause is clear. If Michael attempts to sell the lake house within 10 years of my father's death, without my written consent, the property's status automatically changes. It moves into a preservation trust. Michael loses authority. I gain it. And more than that, the clause includes a notation. Any attempt to circumvent this clause, including misrepresentation of ownership or authority, results in immediate forfeiture of the property and assignment to charitable trust. My father didn't just protect the lake house. He protected me from having to fight for it. I call an estate attorney I find through a friend. I don't tell her who I am or why I'm calling. I just walk through a hypothetical scenario. Say a man dies and leaves an estate to his son through an official will. But there are other documents, trusts, deeds, letters, that give his daughter authority over specific assets. The daughter's never been told about these arrangements. The son doesn't know they exist. Can the daughter claim authority based on these documents? The attorney listens carefully. I hear her typing. Then she stops. Where did you find these documents? She asks. In a box left to me by the deceased, I say. There's a long silence. I need to be careful here, she says slowly. If what you're describing is genuine, if there are dated, witnessed legal documents that contradict the will, then yes, the daughter could absolutely claim authority. It would depend on the specific language and the timing, but if a parent wanted to create layered authority structures, she trails off. You understand, she says carefully, that this could reverse everything. The son's entire inheritance could be challenged. Assets could be redistributed. A court might find that the daughter has legitimate claims to portions of the estate. I understand, I say. And you're prepared for that, she asks. Because once you file anything, once you challenge the will officially, there's no going back to a friendly family dynamic. This becomes legal warfare. I think about Michael's face at the dinner party. His casual arrogance about selling the lake house. I think about my mother flinching. I'm prepared, I say. I don't file anything yet. Instead, I watch. I let Michael move forward with confidence. He starts attending property management meetings. He begins making decisions about rental properties. He even mentions to a real estate agent that he's interested in selling several assets. And I wait. The silence between us grows louder each day. He starts to feel it, I think. I can see it in how he watches me at family events. There's a question forming in his eyes, a sense that something isn't right, but he can't identify what. I'm polite, supportive, interested in his plans. But I'm also very present. Every time he mentions selling a property, I'm there. Every time he talks about his plans for the estate, I listen carefully. I'm not threatening. I'm not confrontational. Just aware. And slowly, he begins to feel the weight of that awareness. He gets bolder though. Overconfident. He lists one of the commercial properties, a building that generates significant rental income, without consulting anyone. He doesn't realize that property's deed has my father's trust language embedded in it. He doesn't realize that my signature is legally required to transfer it. I watch from a distance as his confidence begins to crack, just slightly, when the real estate agent asks for additional documentation from the co-executor. Co-executor. The term hangs in the air between us. Michael doesn't know what it means yet. But he will. The buyer's bank calls 3 weeks into the listing. The title verification process flags an issue. There's a notation on the deed indicating multiple parties with authority over the property. The bank won't release funds until there's clarity about who actually owns what and who has the right to sell. Michael calls me that evening. His voice is careful, measured, but underneath it I hear panic. "Sophie," he says, "did you know anything about some kind of trust on the commercial property? The one on Riverside?" I take a breath before answering. My voice is calm, concerned, helpful. "I'm not sure, Michael. I remember Dad mentioning some complex deed structures a while back." "Why?" "The buyer's bank is holding up the sale. They say there's some language about a co-executor. That doesn't mean anything, right? Dad would have just put some formality on there." "Probably," I say. "Have you contacted the original property attorney?" There's silence on the other end. "Which attorney?" he asks quietly. I realize he doesn't even know who handled his inheritance. He doesn't have copies of the documents. He didn't read the paperwork carefully enough to know who to contact. "I think there's a name on the original deed," I say. "You should be able to find it." He hangs up shortly after, thanking me for the help, his voice tight with worry. I sit in the dark of my apartment and wait. The first domino is about to fall. Michael calls again the next morning. This time he's not pretending to be calm. "Sophie, what is this?" His voice is sharp, almost angry. "I pulled the deed for the Riverside property, and there's all this language about an executor and a trust. Did you know about this?" I keep my voice steady, confused, slightly concerned. "I remember Dad mentioning something about restructuring property after his heart attack. I think it was for tax purposes or something. Did you check with his attorney?" "His attorney says it's complicated," Michael says. "There are multiple properties set up this way. She's going to need to schedule a meeting." "That probably makes sense," I say. "You'll want everything to be clear." I can hear the frustration in his breathing. "Did Dad ever talk to you about this stuff?" he asks. "Before he died." This is the moment. I can lie or tell the truth. I choose something in between. "He mentioned he wanted to make sure everything was protected," I say. I didn't understand all the legal details. "Why?" "Because," Michael says, his voice cold now, "it looks like you might have some authority over several of the properties I thought I owned completely." I let the silence stretch between us. "That doesn't sound right," I say finally. "I'm sure the attorney can clarify. What I don't say is that I've already read the documents. I already know exactly what properties are affected. I already know that my signature is legally required on 3 major assets." I let him go into that meeting blind. And while he's scrambling to understand what's happening, he starts making mistakes. Desperate to fix the sale, Michael requests a full estate audit. He wants everything itemized and clarified so there can be no more surprises. It's a brilliant move in theory. In practice, it's a catastrophe. Because a full estate audit means lawyers going through every document, every transaction, every payment that's been made since my father died. And what the audit reveals is that I've been managing properties, paying taxes, handling maintenance, all the actual work that keeps an estate functioning. The payment trails are clear. Every check I've written, every contractor I've hired, every decision I've made on behalf of these properties. It's all documented. The audit attorney presents her findings to Michael, and I can tell from his face when he comes to see me that he's finally understanding the scope of what my father left behind. "You've been running the properties," he says, not angry anymore, just confused. "I was helping Dad before he died," I say. "And someone had to keep things running after." "But you didn't tell me," he says. "You just did it. You were dealing with the will," I say. "I didn't want to bother you with the details." It's technically true. And it's also a knife twist, because he's now realizing that I've been essential to keeping his inheritance valuable this entire time. Without me, the properties would have deteriorated. Without me, tenants would have left. Without me, his inheritance would have been worthless. And now my father's careful structure is starting to reveal itself to him, piece by piece. The whispers start at family events. Relatives who praised Michael's inheritance now look at him differently. They've heard about the property issues. They've heard about the complex trust structures. And they've heard that I was the one managing everything. Suddenly I'm interesting again. Aunts call me with sympathy. Cousins ask how I'm handling everything. My mother stops defending Michael and starts defending me in conversations I'm not even part of. Michael feels the shift. He walks into family dinners with less confidence now. There's a wariness in him, a sense that the story he told himself, that he was the chosen heir, the favored son, is starting to crumble. I stay quiet through it all. I don't confirm anything. I don't contradict anything. I just exist patiently, while the truth slowly becomes public knowledge through no effort of my own. Michael's confidence cracks in public one night when an uncle asks him directly, "So how much of the estate did your sister actually have authority over?" Michael stammers. He doesn't have a good answer. And I see, in that moment, that he realizes he's lost control of the narrative. The will never gave him the complete picture. And now, piece by piece, he's understanding what he actually inherited and what he's actually lost. My attorney contacts me with surprising news. While doing her own research into the estate documents, she discovered another letter. This one is digitized, time-stamped, and stored in a secure digital vault my father set up years ago. I'd never known about it. The letter is dated 3 months before my father's death, and it's addressed specifically to me. "Sophie," it reads, "if you're reading this, then my health has declined further than I've let on. The official will leaves everything to Michael because I need him to believe the estate is his responsibility. But I'm giving you the tools to manage, redirect, or correct any decisions he makes that harm the family legacy. This isn't punishment for Michael. It's protection for what our family has built. Use these tools wisely, but don't hesitate to use them if necessary." My father anticipated this entire scenario. Not just the surface conflict, but the deeper truth, that Michael would inherit without understanding responsibility, and that I would need the authority to correct his mistakes. The estate attorney explains that there's an automatic trigger clause in one of the trusts. If there are disputes about ownership or authority, the trust activates a protective mechanism. Sets freeze. No transfers can be made. No sales can be completed. And the person appointed to manage the frozen assets during the dispute is me. Michael receives notice that 3 major properties are now under dispute management. His authority over them is suspended. He can't sell them, can't refinance them, can't do anything with them until the legal issue is resolved. For the first time since the will was read, he's losing ground. He's also losing his mind. Michael stops pretending to be reasonable. He posts on social media about being unfairly treated. He tells relatives that I'm manipulating the estate. He accuses me of hiding information and using legal technicalities to steal what belongs to him. And with every accusation, he damages his own legal position. His words become evidence. His anger becomes a pattern. His claims about what my father intended are contradicted by the documents he never bothered to read. I don't respond to any of his accusations. I let him angry, and I let the court observe his anger. Because a judge watching a young man rage against a careful legal structure is going to believe the person who set up that structure, the cautious father, over the person who's falling apart emotionally. The court hearing finally comes. Michael's attorney argues that the trusts are overly complex and that my father likely didn't understand their full implications. He claims I've been manipulating the documents to my advantage. Then the judge asks a simple question. Who has managed these properties for the past decade? Everyone turns to look at me. I can see my brother starting to realize that this question is dangerous for him. The answer is me. I've kept the properties running. I've made them profitable. I've protected them. Michael's attorney tries to claim that he delegated to me, that I was just assisting him. But Michael interrupts, angry, defensive. She was just helping, he says. She didn't own anything. She was just helping. Just helping, the judge repeats quietly. For 10 years. Managing assets worth millions of dollars. And you didn't feel compelled to give her anything in your father's will. The courtroom goes very still. Michael realizes his mistake immediately, but it's too late. I submit documentation to the court. Bank statements, property deeds, maintenance records, tax filings. Every signature I've made, every decision I've executed, every responsibility I've carried. It's all there, documented, dated, irrefutable. I don't make speeches. I don't cry or ask for sympathy. I just present the facts. The lake house deed. The trust language. My father's letters explaining the intention behind the structure. The audit results showing the scope of my financial management. No emotion. Just evidence. The judge requests a full redistribution review. Relatives who were congratulating Michael on his inheritance now distance themselves from him. They call me with apologies. They tell me they knew something was wrong but didn't want to interfere. They ask if I'll need help managing the properties going forward. They've realized what I've always known. Michael inherited the appearance of wealth without the capability to maintain it. And I'm the one who actually built something. Michael notices the shift. He sees people treating him differently now. With less respect, more caution. He realizes he's isolated. The legal system was supposed to be his victory. Instead, it's becoming his reckoning. Michael's attorney reaches out with an offer. They're willing to settle privately. Michael will accept some property redistribution if I'll agree not to press for the full trust activation. He's offering me significant assets in exchange for making this go away quietly. It's a good offer, actually. Could take it. But I decline politely. I tell his attorney that I'll see him in court. Because this isn't about settlement. This isn't about reaching a compromise. This is about my father's intentions being respected. This is about truth being documented legally, permanently, undeniably. I'm not looking for money or property anymore. I'm looking for vindication. Michael testifies confidently in court. He explains how he's managed the properties, how he's made decisions, how he's planned for the future. He sounds reasonable, almost sympathetic in his own telling. Then the judge asks him to explain specific decisions from the last 5 years. The maintenance schedule for the lake house. The renovation of the riverside property. The tenant disputes that were resolved. And Michael can't answer. 'Cause I made those decisions. I executed those plans. I solved those problems. He's inherited credit for work he never did. His attorney tries to backtrack to clarify, but it's too late. The courtroom has watched him claim ownership of accomplishments that belong to me. The judge rules that the trusts are valid and were created with clear intention by my father. She orders a full redistribution of assets based on the authority structures outlined in those trusts. Michael's inheritance is reduced by 60%. Property authority for the major assets transfers to me. The lake house, which he tried to sell, becomes part of a family trust that I manage indefinitely. My father's intention is finally recognized by law. Michael loses more than property. He loses the narrative. He loses the respect of the family. He loses the authority he spent months believing was his by right. Michael moves out of the main family estate and buys a smaller house. He doesn't fight the judgment further. He spent everything he has on legal fees and realized he's not going to win. But he also doesn't disappear quietly. He reaches out to relatives, trying to explain himself, trying to rebuild his reputation. But his words don't land anymore. The evidence is too clear. The court's judgment too decisive. He tries to contact me one last time through his attorney, asking if I'd be willing to meet, to discuss rebuilding our relationship. I don't respond. Keep the lake house. I establish a family foundation in my parents' names that funds scholarships and community projects. I hire a professional property management company to run the estate properties, but I maintain authority over major decisions. And I move forward, not with anger but with peace. The silence that my brother mistook for surrender turned out to be strategy. The documents in the fireproof box turned out to be wisdom. The quiet patience turned out to be the only revenge that mattered. I didn't need to scream or fight or prove anything to my family. My father already did that for me, through careful legal structures and detailed letters that explained everything. All I had to do was be patient. All I had to do was trust the silence. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence isn't surrender. Silence is space. The space for truth to catch up, for evidence to accumulate, for the universe to slowly, inevitably, put everything back in its proper place. My brother thought silence meant defeat. He never understood that it meant victory was already written in the documents he never bothered to read.